Jake Morrison wiped down the coffee counter for the third time that afternoon. The rain outside made soft sounds against the windows of Earth's best coffee shop. It was Tuesday, and Tuesdays were always slow. Most people stayed inside their offices or homes when the weather was bad like this. He looked around the small coffee shop. Only 5 customers sat at different tables. An old man read his newspaper in the corner. 2 women talked quietly about their work. A young student typed on his computer. And then there was the alien. The alien sat alone in the back booth. He had been there for 3 hours now. Jake had watched him the whole time. The creature was tall, maybe 8 feet, but he bent down to fit in the human-sized seat. His skin looked like scales that changed color from deep purple to gold when the light hit them. He had a long face that reminded Jake of the dragons in old Earth stories. Other customers kept looking at the alien. Some whispered to each other. A few had left early after seeing him. Jake felt bad about this. The alien looked sad and lonely. The alien had only ordered water. He sat there holding the same glass for hours, looking out the window at the rain. His big eyes seemed tired. Jake thought he looked like someone who carried heavy problems. "Don't talk to that thing," said Lisa, Jake's coworker. She came up behind him with a tray of clean cups. "My cousin works at the spaceport. She says some of these aliens are dangerous." Jake shook his head. "He's been sitting there for hours. He hasn't bothered anyone. He just looks sad. Still," Lisa said, "better to be safe. Let him drink his water and leave." But Jake couldn't stop thinking about the alien. He had moved to the big city from a small town in Montana 2 years ago. He remembered how lonely it felt to be in a new place where nobody knew him. The alien probably felt the same way the afternoon. Got later, the old man left. The 2 women finished their coffee and went home. The student packed up his computer. Soon it was just Jake, Lisa, and the alien. "We close in an hour," Lisa said. "Should I tell him?" Jake looked at the alien again. The creature stared out the window like he was watching something far away. His water glass was almost empty. "I'll talk to him," Jake said. Lisa made a worried face. "Jake, don't do anything stupid." Jake walked over to the alien's table. Up close, he could see that the creature's scales were beautiful. They moved in patterns like waves on water. The alien's eyes were large and dark blue, like the ocean at night. "Hi," Jake said. "I'm Jake. I work here." The alien looked up. He seemed surprised that someone was talking to him. "Hello," the alien said. His voice was deep but gentle. "I am Keth." "Nice to meet you, Keth," Jake said. He sat down across from him. "I noticed you've been here for a while. Are you waiting for someone?" Keth shook his head. "No, I am alone. I like this place. It is quiet. The rain is pleasant to watch." Jake smiled. "Yeah, I like rainy days too. They make everything feel peaceful." He looked at Keth's empty glass. "Can I get you something else? Some food maybe, or another drink?" "I only drink water," Keth said. "My kind does not consume the same things as humans." "What about coffee?" Jake asked. "Have you ever tried it?" Keth looked confused. "Coffee? What is this coffee?" Jake laughed. "Coffee is what we're famous for here. It's a hot drink made from beans. It tastes good and gives you energy. Would you like to try some? It's on the house." Keth tilted his head. "On the house?" "I do not understand." "It means free," Jake explained. "No cost. I want to give it to you as a gift." Keth's eyes grew wide. "A gift? But why? You do not know me." "Because you look like you could use a friend," Jake said simply. "And everyone should try coffee at least once." Keth was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "That is very kind. Yes, I would like to try this coffee." Jake went back to the counter. Lisa watched him make the coffee. "Are you crazy?" She whispered, "You're giving free coffee to an alien?" "He seems nice," Jake said. "He made a mild blend, nothing too strong. And he's been sitting alone for hours. I feel bad for him." Jake brought the coffee back to Keth's table. The alien smelled it first, then took a small sip. His eyes went wide. "This is wonderful." Keth sighed. "It is warm and has a complex flavor. I have never tasted anything like it." "I'm glad you like it," Jake said. He sat back down. "So what brings you to Earth? Are you here for business? Keth nodded. Yes, business. I travel to many worlds for my work. But I do not often have time to ... How do you say? Enjoy the places I visit. What kind of work do you do? I make decisions, Keth said carefully. Important decisions that affect many people. It is difficult work. Jake understood. Sounds like management? I bet you have to deal with a lot of stress. Stress? Yes. That is the right word. Keth took another sip of coffee. I have much responsibility. Sometimes I wonder if I make the right choices. Everyone feels that way sometimes, Jake said. The important thing is that you care about doing the right thing. That's what makes a good leader. Keth looked at Jake with surprise. You think I am a leader? Well, you said you make important decisions that affect people. That sounds like leadership to me. Jake smiled. And you're sitting here worrying about whether you do it right. Bad leaders don't worry about that stuff. They talked for another hour. Jake learned that Keth came from a planet with 3 suns. Keth learned that Jake had grown up on a farm and loved wide open spaces. They both liked quiet mornings and the sound of rain. As closing time came near, Keth stood up. He was very tall. When he wasn't sitting down, "Thank you for the coffee," he said, "and for talking with me. I have not had a conversation like this in a very long time." Will you come back? Jake asked. I work here most days. Keth smiled. It was the first time Jake had seen him smile. Yes, I would like that very much. After Keth left, Lisa came over to Jake. Well, you didn't get eaten, she said. That's good. He was nice, Jake said. Just lonely, I think. Being far from home is hard. Maybe, Lisa said, but be careful. We don't know anything about him. Jake cleaned up Keth's table. He found himself hoping the alien would come back. It had been nice to talk to someone who seemed to really listen. Most customers just wanted their coffee and left. Outside, the rain kept falling. Jake watched through the window as people hurried past under umbrellas. Somewhere out there, Keth was probably walking in the rain too. Thinking about their conversation. Jake didn't know it, but miles away, in a hidden spaceship, Keth was doing exactly that. The being who had just shared coffee with a human barista was actually Emperor Catharian Vex, ruler of 300 star systems and commander of the most powerful space fleet in the galaxy. But for one afternoon, in a small coffee shop on a rainy Tuesday, he had just been Keth, a lonely traveler who had found an unexpected friend in a kind human named Jake Morrison. And that simple moment of connection would change both their lives forever. 3 weeks had passed since Keth first tried coffee. Now he came to Earth's Best Coffee every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon. He always ordered the same mild blend that Jake had made for him that first day. He always sat in the same back booth. And he always stayed for exactly 2 hours. Jake looked forward to those visits. Keth was different from other customers. He listened carefully when Jake talked. He asked thoughtful questions about Earth and human life. And he told interesting stories about other worlds he had visited. The other customers had gotten used to seeing Keth. At first, they whispered and stared. Some had even left the shop when they saw him. But after a few weeks, most people just ignored him. A few had even nodded hello. Lisa still didn't trust the alien. She watched him carefully whenever he came in. She noticed things about Keth that Jake didn't see, like how he always checked everyone who entered the shop, or how he sat so that he could see both the front door and the back exit, or how other aliens who sometimes came to the coffee shop acted strange around him. He's not what he seems, Lisa told Jake one afternoon. I've seen 3 different aliens come in here while he's been here. They all looked at him like they knew him. And they all left real quick. Jake was cleaning the espresso machine. Maybe they're just shy. Not all aliens are social. Or maybe he's someone important, Lisa said. Someone they don't want to bother. Jake laughed. Important? He told me he works in some kind of office job. Makes decisions about boring stuff. He seems pretty normal to me. But Lisa wasn't convinced. She started paying more attention to Keth. She noticed his clothes looked simple, but felt expensive when she saw them up close. She noticed he always paid with rare Earth coins that most aliens couldn't get. and she noticed how he carried himself when he thought no one was looking. Like someone used to being in charge. Jake didn't notice any of these things. He just saw a lonely friend who liked to talk about interesting topics. During their conversations, Jake learned that Keth's home planet had purple skies and silver oceans. Keth learned that Jake had grown up helping his father fix old farm equipment. "Your father taught you to repair things," Keth said one Thursday afternoon. "That must have been valuable training, I guess," Jake said. "But it was more than that. He taught me to understand how things work, how all the parts fit together, how one broken piece can mess up the whole machine." Keth nodded slowly. "Yes, I understand. In my work, I must also think about how all the parts work together, how one bad decision can affect everything else." "What kind of decisions do you make?" Jake asked. Keth was quiet for a moment. "Difficult ones. Sometimes I must choose between what is easy and what is right. Sometimes I must make choices that will help many people but hurt a few. It is not simple." Jake could see that Keth was troubled by something. "Sounds like you're dealing with some big problems at work." "Very big," Keth said. "There is a situation developing in one of our departments. Some people are not happy with how things are being run. They want to make changes. Big changes." "What kind of changes?" "They want to break away, start their own company. But if they do that, it will hurt everyone. There will be fighting. People will lose their jobs. Some might even get hurt." Jake frowned. "That sounds serious." "What are your bosses telling you to do?" "They want me to be firm, to show strength, to make an example of the troublemakers so others won't get the same ideas." "And what do you think?" Keth sighed. "I think there might be another way. Maybe if I talked to them, if I listened to their problems, if I showed them that I care about their concerns." "That sounds like the right approach to me," Jake said. "People just want to feel heard, you know? Most of the time, when someone is causing trouble, it's because they feel like no one is paying attention to their problems. But my advisors say that showing weakness will make things worse. That other departments will think they can make demands too." Jake shook his head. "It's not weakness to listen to people. It's good leadership. The best managers I've ever had were the ones who actually cared about us as people, not just as workers." Keth stared into his coffee cup. "You really believe that?" "I know it. Last year, our district manager was this guy who just shouted orders and threatened to fire people. Everyone hated him. Productivity was terrible. People called in sick all the time. Then they replaced him with someone who actually listened to our problems and tried to help. Now everyone works harder and the store runs better." "Interesting," Keth said. "So you think showing care and understanding makes people more loyal, not less?" "Definitely. People will work harder for someone they respect than for someone they fear." Jake didn't know it, but his words were having a big impact on Keth. That evening, Keth sent messages to his advisors. Instead of sending military ships to deal with the rebellious sector, he wanted to try something different. He wanted to send diplomats. He wanted to hear what the rebels had to say. His advisors were shocked. Emperor Catharian Vex was known for being firm but fair. But this was different. This was softer than his usual approach. They argued with him, but Keth was decided. He would try Jake's way first. The next week, Keth seemed different when he came to the coffee shop. He sat straighter. He looked less tired. When Jake asked how his work was going, Keth smiled. "Better," he said. "I took your advice. I sent people to talk to the troublemakers instead of sending in security. It worked. They had real problems that needed to be solved. Now we're working together instead of fighting." Jake grinned. "That's great, see? Sometimes the simplest approach is the best one." But Jake noticed that Keth seemed more formal than usual. He still came to the coffee shop, but he sat differently. He looked around more carefully. He seemed to be thinking about something important. "Are you okay?" Jake asked. "You seem different today." Keth looked at him for a long moment. "I am fine. Just thinking about work, about responsibilities. Want to talk about it?" "No," Keth said quickly. "I would rather hear about your life. Tell me about this place, about your city, about your people." So Jake talked about Earth, about how humans had different cultures and languages but were all basically the same, about how people everywhere wanted the same things, to be safe, to be happy, to be respected. Humans are not perfect, Jake said. We make mistakes. We fight sometimes. But most of us try to do the right thing, and we're always better when we work together. Keth listened carefully to everything Jake said. He asked questions about human government, about how leaders were chosen, about how conflicts were solved. Jake answered as best he could, not knowing that he was giving advice to one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. As the weeks passed, their friendship grew stronger. Jake began to think of Keth as his best friend. He looked forward to their conversations. He worried when Keth seemed troubled. He celebrated when Keth had good news from work. Keth felt the same way. For the first time in his life, he had a friend who didn't want anything from him. Jake never asked for favors or special treatment. He just wanted to talk and share coffee and enjoy each other's company, but Lisa was getting more suspicious. She had started doing research on her computer during slow times. She looked up information about different alien species. She studied pictures of alien leaders and important figures, and she was starting to suspect that their regular customer was much more than he seemed. One afternoon, while Keth and Jake were talking about the weather, Lisa was in the back room looking at her computer screen. She had found something that made her heart race. A picture of a tall, scaled alien in fancy robes. The face was the same as their customer, but the name underneath made her gasp. Emperor Catharian Vex, ruler of the Draconic Hegemony, commander of 300 star systems. Their lonely coffee shop customer was one of the most powerful beings in the known galaxy, and Jake had no idea. Lisa stared at her computer screen. The picture showed the same face she saw every Tuesday and Thursday, but this alien wore golden robes and a crown that looked like it was made of stars. The title under the picture made her hands shake. Emperor Catharian Vex of the Draconic Hegemony, supreme ruler of 300 star systems, commander of the largest space fleet in the galaxy. She read more. The Draconic Hegemony was one of the most powerful empires in space. They controlled trade, routes between dozens of worlds. Their military was feared across the galaxy, but they were also known for being fair rulers who protected smaller planets from invasion. Lisa looked through the coffee shop window. Jake was wiping down tables while Keth sat in his usual booth, reading something on a small device. He looked so normal, so ordinary. Nothing like the powerful emperor in the pictures. For 3 days, Lisa said nothing. She watched Keth more carefully. She noticed how he moved with perfect balance like a fighter. She saw how his eyes constantly checked everyone in the room. She observed how he always sat where he could see all the exits, but she also saw how he smiled when Jake brought him coffee, how he laughed at Jake's stories about difficult customers, how he seemed to relax when they talked about simple things like weather or Earth movies. Lisa didn't know what to do. Should she tell Jake? Should she call the police? Should she pretend she never saw the pictures? On Friday afternoon, Jake was complaining about their new district manager. He's terrible, Jake said to Keth. He doesn't listen to anyone. He makes stupid rules that make our jobs harder. Yesterday, he yelled at me for giving a free coffee to an old lady who was short on money. Keth listened carefully. What makes him a bad leader? He doesn't care about us, Jake said. He just wants to look good to his bosses. He makes decisions without asking us what we think. And he treats us like we're stupid. What would make him better? Jake thought for a moment. If he actually talked to us, if he asked for our ideas, if he treated us like people instead of just workers. Good leaders make people want to follow them. Bad leaders make people want to quit. Keth nodded slowly. Yes, I understand. A leader who rules through fear will always be weaker than one who rules through respect. Exactly, Jake said. People will do the minimum for someone they hate, but they'll do amazing things for someone they believe in. Lisa watched this conversation from behind the counter. She realized that Jake was giving leadership advice to one of the most powerful rulers in the galaxy. And he had no idea. That weekend, Lisa couldn't stop thinking about what she should do. She researched more about the draconic hegemony. She learned that Emperor Catharian Vex had ruled for 15 years. He had prevented 3 wars between different alien species. He had built hospitals and schools on dozens of worlds. He was known for being just and fair, but he was also incredibly powerful. His word was law across hundreds of planets. He commanded millions of soldiers. He could destroy entire worlds if he wanted to. On Monday morning, Lisa made her decision. She had to tell Jake the truth. "Jake, we need to talk," she said during their morning break. "It's about Keth. What about him?" Lisa showed Jake the pictures on her computer. "This is him. This is who he really is." Jake looked at the screen. He saw the golden robes and the crown. He read the title. His face went pale. "That's impossible," he said. "Keth works in an office. He makes boring decisions about paperwork." "Look at the face," Lisa said. "It's the same person." Jake stared at the pictures. Slowly, he began to see it. The same dark blue eyes, the same pattern of scales, the same way of holding his head when he was thinking. "Oh my God," Jake whispered. "I've been giving business advice to a galactic emperor. Jake, this guy rules 300 star systems. He has armies that could conquer Earth in a day. And, you've been treating him like a regular customer." Jake sat down heavily. "But he's just ... He's just Keth. He likes coffee and rain and talking about normal stuff. He worries about making the right decisions at work." "Because his decisions affect billions of people," Lisa said. "When he talks about work problems, he's talking about ruling an empire." Jake felt sick. Why didn't he tell me? Why did he lie? "Maybe he wasn't lying," Lisa said. "Maybe he was just being himself, without all the emperor stuff." That afternoon, Keth came to the coffee shop as usual. Jake made his coffee, but his hands were shaking. He brought it to Keth's table and sat down. "Is everything all right?" Keth asked. "You seem troubled." Jake looked at him. He saw the same gentle face, the same kind eyes, but now he also saw the power underneath. The way Keth sat like someone used to command. The way he spoke with natural authority. "I know who you are," Jake said quietly. Keth went very still. "What do you mean?" "Emperor Catharian Vex," Jake said. "Ruler of the draconic hegemony, commander of 300 star systems." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Other customers talked and laughed around them, but their table was silent. "I see," Keth said finally. "How long have you known?" "Since this morning." Lisa figured it out. She showed me pictures. Keth looked down at his coffee. "I suppose you are angry with me for lying to you." "I don't know what I am," Jake said. "Confused, I guess." "Why didn't you tell me?" Keth was quiet for a moment. "Because I wanted to be just Keth, not Emperor Vex, not your Imperial Majesty. Just Keth, who likes coffee and rain and talking to a friend." "A friend?" "Yes," Keth said. "You are my friend. The first real friend I have had in many years." Jake felt his anger fading. "What do you mean, real friend?" "When you are an emperor, everyone wants something from you. They tell you what they think you want to hear. They smile and agree with everything you say. They are polite and respectful, but they are not honest. They are not real." Keth looked up at Jake. "But you are real. You tell me when you think I am wrong. You give me advice without knowing who I am. You talk to me like I am a normal person, not like I am someone to be feared." "But you are someone to be feared," Jake said. "You could destroy Earth if you wanted to." "I could," Keth agreed, "but I do not want to. I want to protect Earth, I want to help it grow and prosper, and I want to keep coming here for coffee and conversation with my friend." Jake studied Keth's face. "The work problems you told me about, those were real problems, weren't they? Real Empire problems?" "Yes, a group of star systems wanted to rebel against my rule. My advisors wanted me to send the military to crush them. But I remembered what you said about listening to people, about caring about their concerns, so I sent diplomats instead. And it worked. The rebels had real problems. Their worlds were being ignored. Their people were hungry. I sent food and medical supplies. I appointed new governors who cared about the people. The rebellion ended without a single battle." Jake felt strange. So I helped you stop a war? Yes, your advice saved thousands of lives. Maybe millions. Jake put his head in his hands. I don't know how to handle this. You're one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. I'm just a guy who makes coffee. You are a guy who makes coffee and gives wise advice, Keth said. You are a guy who saw a lonely stranger and offered him kindness. You are a guy who treated an alien emperor like a regular person and became his friend. But everything's different now, Jake said. I can't just sit here and chat with you like before. Not knowing who you are? Why not? Keth asked. I'm still the same person. I still like coffee. I still enjoy our conversations. I still value your friendship. Jake looked at him. But you're an emperor. You have responsibilities. Important things to do. Why do you waste time here with me? Keth smiled sadly. Because these 2 hours every week are the only time I can be myself. The only time I can talk to someone who sees me as a person, not as a title. The only time I can have a real conversation with a real friend. They sat in silence for a while. Jake thought about everything Keth had told him. About the loneliness of power. About the difficulty of making decisions that affected millions of people. About wanting to be seen as a person, not just a ruler. I'm sorry, Jake said finally. I'm sorry you have to carry all that weight alone. I'm not alone anymore, Keth said. I have a friend who gives me good advice. A friend who reminds me that every decision affects real people with real lives. A friend who helps me be a better leader. Jake looked at Keth. So what happens now? Now we finish our coffee, Keth said, and you tell me about your week. And, I tell you about mine, and we continue being friends? Even though you're an emperor? Especially because I am an emperor, Keth said. I need friends more than anyone. Jake smiled for the first time that day. Okay, but I'm still going to charge. You for the coffee? Keth laughed. I would not expect anything less. 2 weeks passed after Jake learned the truth about Keth. At first, things felt strange between them. Jake kept catching himself about to give advice, then remembering he was talking to an emperor. Keth noticed the change and seemed sad about it. But slowly they found their rhythm again. Jake realized that emperor or not, Keth was still his friend who needed someone to talk to. And Keth was grateful that Jake didn't start treating him differently once the shock wore off. On a rainy Thursday afternoon, Keth came into the coffee shop looking different. He walked taller, his shoulders were straighter, but his eyes looked more tired than usual. You look like you've had a rough week, Jake said, bringing Keth his usual coffee. A difficult week, yes, Keth said, but also a successful one. Do you remember the rebellion I told you about? The one where you sent diplomats instead of soldiers? Yes, well, there was another problem, a different group of systems. This time, they were not just unhappy. They were actually attacking trade ships and stealing supplies. Jake sat down. That sounds more serious. It was. My military advisors said we had to respond with force. That we could not let pirates think they could attack us without consequences. Keth sipped his coffee. But I remembered what you said about understanding why people do bad things. What did you find out? Their worlds were dying. A disease was killing their crops. Their people were starving. They asked for help many times, but their requests got lost in the bureaucracy, so they started stealing food to survive. Jake nodded. Desperate people do desperate things? Exactly. So instead of sending warships, I sent medical ships. And, food ships and scientists to help cure the disease. Keth smiled. The pirate attacks stopped immediately. Now those worlds are some of our most loyal allies. That's amazing, Jake said. You saved 2 wars in 1 month. With your help, Keth said. Your advice about listening to people, about understanding their problems? It changed how I think. About leadership, Jake felt proud but also overwhelmed. It's weird knowing that our conversations affect so many people. Does it bother you? A little, Jake admitted. I mean, I'm just a coffee shop worker. I never studied government or politics. What if I give you bad advice? Keth shook his head. You give me human advice. You remind me that every decision affects Real people with real lives. That is exactly what I need to hear. They talked for another hour about smaller things. Earth weather, Keth's home planet, funny customer stories. But Jake noticed that Keth seemed distracted. He kept checking a small communication device. Is everything okay? Jake asked. There is a situation developing, Keth said carefully. A crisis in the outer territories. I may need to leave Earth soon to deal with it. How soon? Perhaps as early as tomorrow. Jake felt a strange panic. For how long? I do not know. Weeks? Maybe months? This is a complex problem that will require my personal attention. Before Jake could respond, the front door of the coffee shop opened. 3 tall figures in dark uniforms entered. They looked like Keth's species, but different, more military. More dangerous. Keth saw them and his whole demeanor changed. He sat straighter, his voice became more formal. My Imperial Guard, he said quietly to Jake. They have come to escort me back to the ship. The lead guard approached their table. He was even taller than Keth, with darker scales and scars on his face. He bowed respectfully. Your Imperial Majesty, the guard said. We must leave immediately. The situation has escalated. Other customers in the coffee shop had stopped talking. Everyone was staring at the imposing aliens in military uniforms. Lisa dropped a cup behind the counter, and it shattered on the floor. I understand, Commander Ryzen, Keth said. His voice was different now. More commanding, more imperial. Give me 5 more minutes. The guard looked uncomfortable. Your Majesty, the council is waiting. The fleet is prepared for departure. 5 minutes, Keth repeated. This time it was clearly an order. The guard bowed again and stepped back, but he didn't leave. The other 2 guards positioned themselves by the door. Jake realized that every customer in the coffee shop was now looking at their table. Word would spread quickly that an alien emperor had been coming here for weeks. The quiet little coffee shop would never be the same. I am sorry, Keth said to Jake. I did not want it to end this way. End? Jake asked. You're coming back, right? Keth was quiet for a moment. I do not know. This crisis is very serious. It may require all of my attention for a long time. What kind of crisis? An ancient enemy has returned, Keth said. A species that we fought centuries ago. They have new technology, new weapons. They are attacking our outer colonies and moving toward the inner systems. Jake felt cold. That sounds like war. It may be. My people look to me for protection. For leadership, I cannot fail them. But you'll come back when it's over? Keth looked at Jake with sad eyes. If I survive it. Don't say that. I must be realistic. This enemy is dangerous. They have defeated other empires. Many good leaders have died fighting them. Jake didn't know what to say. The idea of Keth not coming back, of never seeing his friend again, was terrible. Your Majesty, the guard said again, we really must go. Keth stood up. In his formal posture, he looked every inch the emperor. Other customers whispered and pointed. Some took pictures with their phones. Thank you for the coffee, Keth said formally. Then more quietly, and thank you for the friendship. Jake stood up too. Keth, wait, Keth paused. Be careful out there. Jake said, remember what we talked about. About being a good leader, about caring for your people. I will remember, Keth said. And remember that you're not just an emperor. You're also my friend, so you better come back. Keth smiled, and for a moment he was just Keth again. I will try. The Imperial Guard escorted Keth out of the coffee shop. Through the window, Jake watched them walk to a sleek black vehicle that definitely wasn't from Earth. In seconds, they were gone. The coffee shop erupted in conversation. Everyone was talking at once about what they had just witnessed. Some people were excited, others were scared. A few rushed out to call friends and tell them what they had seen. Lisa came over to Jake. Are you okay? Jake sat back down in his chair. Keth's coffee cup was still half full. I don't know. This is all so crazy. The news people will probably come here, Lisa said. Everyone's going to want to know about the alien emperor who drank coffee in our shop. Jake hadn't thought about that. Great, our quiet little place is going to become a circus. Maybe, But Jake, you realize what just happened? You were friends with one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. You gave him advice that prevented wars. You helped shape galactic politics. I just talked to a lonely guy who liked coffee. Jake said, you did more than that. You showed him kindness when no one else would. You treated him like a person when everyone else saw him as either a threat or an opportunity. Jake picked up Keth's coffee cup. It was still warm. I hope he's okay out there. He will be, Lisa said. You taught him how to be a good leader. How to care about people. That's going to help him win whatever fight he's facing. Jake nodded, but he was worried. Keth had said this enemy was dangerous. That other leaders had died fighting them. What if Keth never came back? What if their friendship was over before it really began? Outside, rain started falling again. Jake watched the drops hit the window where Keth used to sit and look out at the city. The booth felt empty now. The whole coffee shop felt different. Jake didn't know it, but across the galaxy, Keth was thinking about him too. As the Imperial ship jumped to hyperspace, heading toward a war that would determine the fate of billions, Emperor Catharian Vex remembered the lessons a human barista had taught him about leadership, friendship, and the importance of seeing people as individuals. Those lessons would soon be tested in the greatest challenge of his reign. 6 months passed without any word from Keth. Jake tried to follow the news about the draconic hegemony, but most Earth news sources didn't cover galactic politics very well. He heard bits and pieces about battles in distant star systems, but nothing about whether Keth was safe. The coffee shop had indeed become famous. News reporters came for weeks after Keth left. Earth's best coffee was now known as the place where an alien emperor drank coffee. Tourism increased, but Jake didn't enjoy the attention. He missed the quiet conversations with his friend. Jake started taking night classes at the local university. He studied interstellar relations and galactic history. He wanted to understand the universe that Keth lived in. His professors were impressed by his practical knowledge of alien cultures and diplomatic thinking. Lisa had been promoted to assistant manager. She helped Jake deal with the constant stream of reporters and curious visitors who wanted to know about the alien emperor. Together, they kept the coffee shop running while Jake studied for his new career. One evening, while Jake was reading about trade agreements between different alien species, Lisa rushed over to his table. Jake, turn on the news, now. Jake grabbed the remote and switched on the wall television. A serious-looking news anchor was talking about a crisis. Earth's government has received a formal invasion threat from the Krex Empire, the anchor said. These hostile aliens have demanded that Earth surrender all our mineral resources or face military conquest. The United Earth Council is meeting an emergency session to discuss our response. Jake felt his stomach drop. The Krex? Are they the ancient enemy Keth was fighting? I think so, Lisa said. Look. The screen showed pictures of the alien invaders. They looked like giant insects with metal armor and glowing red eyes. They were ugly and frightening, nothing like the peaceful aliens who sometimes visited Earth. The Krex Empire has already conquered 12 worlds in the outer galaxy, the anchor continued. Their technology appears to be superior to most known civilizations. Earth's military leaders admit they are not prepared for this level of threat. Jake watched in horror as the news showed footage of destroyed planets, cities turned to ash. Millions of refugees fleeing their homes. The Krex were not just conquerors, they were destroyers. Over the next few days, panic spread across Earth. The government tried to negotiate with the Krex, but the aliens refused all offers. They wanted complete surrender or total war. Earth's space fleet was small and weak compared to what the Krex had shown in other battles. Jake couldn't concentrate on his studies. He kept thinking about Keth. Was he still alive? Was he fighting these same enemies? Could the draconic hegemony help Earth? On Friday morning, Jake made a decision. He called in sick to work and took a bus to the United Earth Council building. In New York, he had to try something. Even if it seemed impossible, the government building was surrounded by protesters and reporters. Inside, security guards tried to stop Jake from entering the diplomatic section. I need to speak to someone about the Krex invasion, Jake said. I have information that might help. Sir, unless you have an appointment, you'll need to leave. The guard said. I know Emperor Catharian Vex of the Draconic Hegemony, Jake said desperately. He's been fighting the Kreks for months. He might be able to help us. The guard looked skeptical. You know an alien emperor? Yes, we're friends. He used to come to my coffee shop. The guard was about to dismiss Jake when another voice spoke. Up, wait, said a woman in a business suit. You're Jake Morrison, aren't you? From Earth's Best Coffee? Jake nodded. Yes. I'm Director Patricia Walsh from the Department of Alien Affairs. I've read the reports about your relationship with Emperor Vex. Come with me. Director Walsh led Jake to a conference room where several important-looking people were having a heated discussion. When Jake entered, they all turned to look at him. This is Jake Morrison, Walsh said. He's the human who had regular contact with Emperor Catharian Vex. An older man in a military uniform stepped forward. Mr. Morrison, we've tried to contact the Draconic Hegemony through normal diplomatic channels. They're not responding. They appear to be too busy fighting their own war against the Kreks. But if you have a personal relationship with their emperor, Walsh said, maybe you could help us make contact. Jake felt overwhelmed. I don't know how to reach him. He just came to my coffee shop. We have communication equipment that can send messages across the galaxy, the military man said. But we need someone who knows how to talk to him. Someone he trusts. Jake thought for a moment. What would I say? Ask for help, Walsh said simply. Tell him Earth is in danger. Tell him we need the protection of the Draconic Hegemony. What if he can't help? What if he's too busy with his own war? Then we fight alone, the military man said grimly. But at least we'll have tried everything. They led Jake to a communication room filled with complex equipment. A technician helped him record a message that would be transmitted across space. Using quantum communication technology, Jake sat in front of a camera, feeling nervous. He had no idea if Keth would even receive the message, or if he was still alive to hear it. Keth, it's Jake from the coffee shop. Jake looked directly into the camera. I hope you're safe out there. I hope you're winning your war against the Kreks, but I have to tell you something important. The Kreks are threatening Earth now. They want us to surrender or they'll destroy our planet. Our government asked me to contact you because they know we're friends. I don't know if you can help us, but I had to ask. Earth needs protection. My people need help. If you can do anything, please. We could really use a friend right now. The technician transmitted the message. Now all they could do was wait, too. Days passed with no response. Earth's government prepared for the worst. Military ships took defensive positions around the planet. Cities began evacuation procedures. Everyone waited for the Kreks invasion to begin. On Sunday morning, Jake was at the coffee shop trying to distract himself with work when Lisa came running in. Jake, look outside! Jake rushed to the window. In the sky above the city, massive ships were appearing. But these weren't the ugly metal vessels of the Kreks. These ships were beautiful, with curved lines and golden hulls that gleamed in the sunlight. Draconic Hegemony ships, Jake whispered. His phone rang. It was Director Walsh. Mr. Morrison, you need to get down here immediately. Emperor Vex is requesting a meeting with you. He's refusing to talk to anyone else. Jake took the fastest transport to the government building. When he arrived, he was escorted to a large meeting room where dozens of Earth officials waited nervously. Then Keth walked in. He looked different than Jake remembered. Taller, more formal, wearing impressive robes that marked his imperial status. But when he saw Jake, he smiled the same warm smile. Hello, my friend, Keth said. I received your message. Keth, Jake said, feeling relief flood through him. You came. Of course I came. Earth is under threat. You asked for help. How could I refuse my friend? The Earth officials looked amazed. Here was one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. And he was treating a coffee shop worker like an equal. Can you help us? Jake asked. The Kreks fleet will arrive in 3 days, Keth said. But they will find Earth under the protection of the Draconic Hegemony. Any attack on this world will be considered an attack on my empire. Will that stop them? Keth's expression became serious. The Kreks are dangerous, but they are not foolish. They know they cannot defeat my full fleet. They will withdraw and look for easier targets. Director Walsh stepped forward. Your Majesty, Earth is grateful for your protection. What do you want? In return? Keth looked surprised. In return, nothing. Earth is under my protection because it is the home of my friend. That is reason enough. Over the next few hours, they worked out the details. Earth would join a defensive alliance with the Draconic hegemony, not as subjects but as partners. Keth's fleet would protect Earth from the Krex threat. In exchange, Earth would share its knowledge and culture with other worlds in the alliance. As the meetings continued, Jake found himself serving as an unofficial translator between human and alien thinking. His friendship with Keth helped both sides understand each other better. When the Krex fleet arrived 3 days later, they found Earth surrounded by draconic warships. The message was clear: this world was protected. After a tense standoff, the Krex withdrew to find easier prey. A week later, Keth came to the coffee shop one more time. He sat in his old booth and ordered his usual mild coffee blend. So what happens now? Jake asked. Now I return to my empire, Keth said. The Krex war is not over, but Earth is safe. And us? Our friendship? Keth smiled. You have been offered a position as Earth's first cultural ambassador to the Draconic hegemony. You would travel between worlds, helping different species understand each other, just like you helped us. Jake felt excited and nervous. That's a big responsibility. You taught me that leadership is about understanding people, Keth said. Now you can teach that lesson across the galaxy. Will I see you again? Of course, we are friends. Distance cannot change that. As they finished their coffee, Jake realized how much his life had changed. A simple act of kindness to a lonely stranger had led to friendship across species, prevented wars, and saved his planet. Thank you, Jake said, for everything.